Good evening. It's Robert and Stefan with Patriot Gear LLC. We're doing a quick sit rep follow up to the pre-eclipse briefing that we actually gave back on Monday. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Stefan, and we're going to go through some slides as soon as I mute myself and pull up the slides.
Okay, so the day prior to the eclipse, we went ahead and put up some slides of what we were expecting and not expecting to happen, particularly with a focus on all the different theories and conspiracies that were out there. We're well past the 3-day mark of the eclipse. And just so you know, we will reattack this again in about 90 days. And you'll understand why shortly, but we'll readdress this again at about 12 July, give or take. But if we haven't, some of you want to chime in and remind us in the comments later on, by all means do so. But first up, you should be able to see the slide itself. And terrorism, a violent terrorism incident, that did not occur. Next, there was no bio event. Typically, if there was a bio event, you would expect something to take place between 72 hours and 2 weeks, mostly on the 72-hour side. Right now, we're not seeing anything, and I just got my update on health issues within the state of Texas. And right now, there's nothing trending as far as health concerns in the state of Texas. Next. Accidents, no major accidents took place. Next. No riots took place. Next. While nothing's been discovered, I doubt anything ever will be. We've been assured that the sacrifices did actually take place, but I'm not going to answer a yes or a no. That's the best we can hope for. Mass suicides, again, that's something that may take time. If there is going to be a point where you're discovering bodies, assuming the authorities would release something like that. At some point, they wouldn't be able to keep it covered up. Next. Mass psychosis, nothing reported. Next. We're still waiting for feedback from the scientists. If I would have thought that I would have heard something by now, we'll give it a few more days. And I'm sure at the 3-month point, this will probably end up being a red X. Next. That definitely did not happen. And we've already explained why that wasn't going to happen. Next. No extreme weather, but we did have some storms pop up, and they actually followed the path of totality. That lasted for a day, and then afterwards, there were some other weather issues dealing with the residual energy from that eclipse, but then things transferred into a different direction on the planet. We may touch on that later this broadcast. No earthquake, but as Bob had mentioned earlier, the 1811 event took place 3 months after the eclipse, and that's why we're waiting until 3 months from now for a final follow-up. Next, that definitely didn't happen. Next, the comet here, the report that I initially got was comet was too far away. Now I'm being told that the comet itself actually was destroyed. That plunged into the sun or something. Next. That does not appear to have been an issue at all anywhere. It wouldn't make any sense for it to be an issue. Next. No reports of shortages anywhere. Next. Bob, if you want to touch on this one.
So I was monitoring ham radio and GMRS, and there was a couple places that there was apparently some spotty cell service. People were having problems with data as well as voice comms, but it was by no means a huge outage like the AT&T outage several weeks back. It was just spotty.
Right. Next up. Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
All right. So no Civil War issue, but we need to wait for things to play out. I do believe they will play out, as I've talked about in the past. And as we get closer to that, then I can touch on it. Next. No 3 days of darkness, but at some point in the future, we may be looking at something much longer than 3 days. Next. Bob, if you want to touch on that one.
The cicada is actually emerging. That's probably kind of more of a science than an event based on the eclipse. So The 13-year and 17-year cicadas are still scheduled to emerge, but it doesn't appear to have anything to do with the eclipse and the eclipse events.
We did have one that actually took place. That was a launch of 3 rockets. No proof of anything nefarious taking place with the rockets. I've not received any updates about anything nefarious with the rockets from the scientist guys.
All right.
Okay, I do want to touch on one event that has not happened yet. But people were discussing just prior to it, and they're continuing to discuss it, that there are a bunch of airplanes out there that were spraying bioweapons of some kind over the crowds along the corridor or the path of totality. I have not seen any real proof of any kind that that event actually took place. And in fact, my sources within the government, the scientists and whatnot, would have already made some sort of a comment that this actually took place. We would have been given a legitimate warning, a more clear-cut warning that this would have taken place, and I've not received that yet. The fact that these same people are changing it from 72 hours to then it was 2 weeks, and now they're saying that it's going to be months before people manifest symptoms, is a big red flag for me. Like, okay, now we're just making things up as we go. So again, at the end of the day, I'm just not buying it. I do not believe that any military assets were used to spray biological weapons over crowds anywhere. Now, that said, if anything changes, I'll let you know, and I'll owe somebody some beer. But for now, there's no evidence of any kind that anybody sprayed anything over the crowds from airplanes. I do know that C-130s were used in a type of air show event that was done by guard units, but nothing was being sprayed. I know the people related to the guard units, nothing was sprayed out of their aircraft. That was more of a show than anything else. All right, there's another event that just started just after the eclipse, and that deals with a signal that was picked up with government equipment, government assets, indicating that there is an 80-foot rise in sea level down by coming off of Antarctica near Africa, South Africa. There has been no reporting of any water displacement taking place or tsunamis taking place in that area yet, even though it would have already theoretically hit the shorelines. There are some folks that think maybe something very large lifted up out of the water and eventually departed the area because this 80-foot wave is no longer on the screen. That said, yesterday I was given a warning that we may be looking at a 40-foot wave event continent-wide in the next few days. Are the two related? I don't know, but I was told that I would be getting an update on what that is all about at some point in the next few days, hopefully before the event actually takes place that I was warned about. But so we need to keep our eyes out for that event. Otherwise, I have no additional information to give you. I'd just be making things up, and no point in doing that. That's all we have for this. We are going to have another video popping up in short order regarding another nuclear-related issue.
Sounds good to me.
All right, guys. Thanks. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you. Thank you again for tuning in. Like and share. Give us a thumbs up if you like the information that you're receiving. If you have any suggestions or anything else that you would like us to cover, leave it in the comments, and we'll do our best to try to address things. And then thank you, Stefan, for briefing that, and we will check you all later.
God bless. Have a good weekend. Good night.